Harsh was my first relationship, and I got married. We were in long distance relationship, um, and I remember when we first got married, we didn't know each other's boundaries. We didn't communicate it on that. But one thing that I do like about our relationship is we don't um, shy away from letting each other know what's bothering us.
Mm,
And
that's big.
and I think that's one thing that people don't do in a relationship is like, oh, okay, I will hurt that person when I say that. Okay, that person won't
Mm.
love me when I say that. No, like you're in a relationship. You came into relationship for a reason. If you can communicate your feelings, how are you safe in a relationship? When we discussed our boundaries, we discussed what's bothering both of us, and then we came to terms like, okay, how are we supposed to work together and then move forward. And there's been time like, okay, like we do get into arguments. I mean, everyone's not perfect, but as long as you're communicating and you're working on those communications, your relationship's gonna go better every single day.
So I have a question, and I know I'm not supposed. I don't know if I'm supposed to be asking questions, but I have a question.
Perfect.
Um, so being married as long as you have, and this being your first relationship and first marriage, there's a lot of firsts, right?
Yeah.
And that's hard for most people because there's so many new things and trying to process that. So like when, because I just had a conversation with someone about this. I
Mm-hmm.
said, the problem that I'm seeing with people is they're not really talking about what bothers them because they're afraid of what could happen. So now I understand that that can be hard to do, right? Because just like you don't want to ruin the moment, you don't want to disappoint the person. But let me ask you, as in a successful marriage that you're in, how did you guys become okay with talking about things that bother you? Like, how do you make it so you don't take it personal? Like, how do you do that?
Really great question. It takes time.
Mhm.
First of all, you need to know yourself. Like you've said, you need to know yourself. You need to know what's bothering you, and what's the
Mm.
level of what's the what where is your like breaking point.
Mm. You're so right.
Like if you cannot take the shit from that breaking point, you gotta bring the shit out. Like when we first got married, Harsh was working, like he still works like workaholic, handling too many things at one time.
Mm.
We have recently got married, right? And I was like, bro, okay, I know that you gotta work. I know that there are things that needs to get done, but at the same time, there is a life beyond just work. And we had to work on our calendars.
Mm.
Like we literally put our time on our calendars that okay, this is Harsh and I are going on date nights on these days. Like we figure out a plan. Because if I mean he's busy and now that I'm busy at the same time, it's
Right.
hard to get time for each other. Um, so we plan it out. Okay, let's keep Friday nights, date nights, no calls. After 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, no calls. And that's working perfectly fine with us. And then now that what we're doing is mostly Friday nights is our cooking time. We cook together because I don't just we don't like to like just go out and then eat out and then come home. Um, I think when we do our activities together, we bond well together. When we do stuff together, you bond well together. So took us 3 years to figure it out.
Wow. So how did you find the patience to work through that?
Really good question. Um, you need to give grace to other person. You need to know what other person is coming from. You need to put your feet in other person's shoes, like what they're coming from. He's ever since he's like what 13, 14, is man of the house, like working. It's he just feel like he's a provider of the family. Like he has to hustle. If he's not hustling, he's not bringing bread home. So I had to understand that okay, this is what his perspective is. I will work through his perspective, but at the same time, how will I give him my perspective of what I feel, that this is okay, there is a solution to this and how we can work together. And same goes for the other person, like the person also has to give you the grace of what you're coming from.
Did you know this about relationships before you got into a relationship, or did you learn this with experience?
Are you like crossing? How is it going now? Are you gonna interview me now for the rest of the podcast? Oh, but
This is so good. It's so interesting. You don't hear too many successful relationships or marriages anymore. So it's like,
I
because it
know
also, speaks on what I'm saying, right? Like it's,
it's just so
but
it's a
I'm done after
no, 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 no.
this.
And I was just joking, but
Yeah.
no, I mean, I think it's a working process, man. It's a working process. You said that. How did I? Okay, well,
How'd you learn?
before dating Hirsch, I used to watch these YouTube videos of what is the guy's name? Matthew Hussey. Well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's like big
the
time and
big
all this.
time,
Yeah.
yeah. I've watched few of his videos of how like women are falling hard in a wrong relationships, and what are the things to like avoid in a relationship. um so yeah, that used to watch, and then um it takes time, man. It just like when you're little, you take time to walk, you know. And I think what happens in these times, people don't give time to relationship. They're quick to get out of it.
Mm.
They're really quick to get out of it. Patience, communication, and patience. And if they're like, if there's a stopping point and the other person is not responding to your things, then go ahead, get out of that relationship. But then you have to give time. You have to have patience.
That's wild. That's awesome that you figured that out on your first relationship and first marriage. Like that's pretty. It goes to show you don't need a lot of relationships to learn this. You don't have to go through so many. Sometimes it just takes one, right? So that's your proof of that, which is amazing. But yeah, that's it.
Thank
I
you.
got no more questions.